Good afternoon or evening, depending on when you're watching this show. And the last show, I talked about a town meeting coming up, and here we are, the town meeting has taken place. And I'm on my sandbox now about people going to a town meeting. I've never blamed people, and you can check around, and I am a person who lets you know where I stand. I've never blamed people for not going to the town meeting. But I do try to like to lobby them, if I may, to talk to them about going to the town meeting, and it's a good idea if you can. Now, let me start you off on a town meeting. We'll talk about town. You got a minute? We'll talk about town meeting for a minute. Small town. Town meetings are called to order by the town moderator. Town meetings must have a quorum number or no quorum number, depending on what the law, what they decide the quorum number will be. And they are the people that get together and they make the laws for the town of Raynham and budgets for the town of Raynham. They do the town's business. The presence of a selectman at that meeting is a luxury for them, because it is the only time, really. I know the vice president breaks ties in Congress, and that's the one time the executive branch goes into the legislative branch. But in town meetings, the selectmen, for some reason, the people seem to want them up at the head of the table, probably to see what they look like and see if they've got something to say on some of these issues. So generally speaking, at the head table of the town meeting, the principal person at the town meeting is the town moderator. The other principal person, and there are two principal peoples at the town meeting, is the town clerk. So the town clerk is necessary for the running of the business, the keeping of the minutes, and the moderator is important or is significant because they run the meeting, they structure the meeting and make sure that votes are taken properly and recorded and things of that nature. So they're the only two people. Or whoever selectman sitting up there, they're just three people sitting up there. That's all they are. Now, are they a member of the executive? Yes, they are. Do they have any more power or strength? No, absolutely none. And so it's an honor for them to be sitting up there. But they should, and they should be seen. And so and then, however, who else is sitting up there? Generally speaking, members of what we call the Finance Committee, because those are the people that sit down with budgets over the period of time, 6 months, or whatever it happens to be between town meetings, and they are the ones that make the recommendation on how you're going to spend your money and let you know whether you're going to be able to get by the next year, and so they're the ones that give you financial advice. Also sitting up there, generally speaking, should be the town council, because town council should be there to make certain rulings if someone questions the legality of something. So what I've done is I've given you the head table, and that's basically the head table. 3 selectmen, town council, moderator, town clerk, finance committee, and they're sitting up there, and we have a 25 quorum, which, as I'm telling you, is much too low, but business must be done. And is there a chance to change it? And any town meeting can change it. But you have to have then, therefore, to conduct the business. If you're going to change it to 50, you've got to have 50 people there or you can't do your business. So that is the structure of a town meeting. Now, I'll give you just a little bit the history of a town meeting. When I first moved to Raynham, 62, I attended, I believe, every town meeting, and there were some people who think maybe towns aren't operating as efficiently as cities, and the irony of the situation is people in the town, you've lived in your town all your life and you think that's what city people think. Well, I was a city person moving from Woburn, which is a city. And you might think, well, people, McKinnon from Woburn thinks that we're operating, better with a city. We never thought that. I had a group that would get together and we'd discuss everything, and I mean everything. And we always thought that Burlington and Wilmington, those towns, were operated more efficiently than we were, because the people had more input into what was going on. So when I moved to the town of Raynham, not only did I have an open mind as to the operating of the town. Eddie Murby was running the highway department. Walter O'Brien, Al Porter was a selectman at the time. Later on, Don Francis and Art Pillsbury. And these were the people that basically were structuring it. And these people here, the water department, and there was no sewer department at the time, but it was well run. The town of Raynham was well run. And what I moved into, and those of you people who have been here for many years know this, but others are going to be rather surprised. There was a section of Raynham called, and it's still called that, by the way, Pleasantfield. And when we get involved in sections of communities now, they become neighborhoods. Now, why is that important? Because they have an identity. They feel their identity. They feel as though they are something. You're somebody. You move into the town, you may be new, but you're somebody. What are you? Oh, I'm in Pleasantfield. Now, Pleasantfield was built by a contractor from Brockton, and it's going to escape me for a minute, but I will come up with it as the show goes on. Maybe yes, maybe no. But anyway, it was built by one contractor, and all the roads, and Catherine and I moved into what was called the last road, which is Nicholas Road in the town of Raynham in Pleasantfield. Now, there is another road added to it, but that was not considered originally part of the development of Pleasantfield. That was a farm, and it was built into a neighborhood. Now, it became significant to those in the town because there were no other neighborhoods per se. There was North Raynham, South Raynham, there was Eastern, there was all the different sections of the town, but none of them were considered neighborhoods per se. They were, North Raynham was North Raynham. You came from North Raynham. And as a matter of fact, when you formed the water district, the North Raynham Water District formed first, and then the rest of the town did. It's one of the few communities probably that has two separate water districts, one North Raynham and the other Raynham, because they couldn't get together at the town meeting to get the structure going, and so therefore they formed different units. So as these neighborhoods got together, though, Pleasantfield began to feel isolated because they realized, wait a minute, now we're down in this corner of a few hundred acres, and they didn't even know who we are, nor did they care who we were. Then they didn't. They didn't know who they were, and they didn't care who they were. There's nothing. The whole thing about government is you got to understand, if you want to be a player, you make yourself a player. If you don't want to be a player, that's fine. They won't bother you. But the people in Pleasantfield then began to have certain wants, if you will, versus needs. And they began to expound on them. And the town looked out and said, well, I don't know whether we're going to give you that or not. And so Pleasantfield came around with a petition. Now, they came around to Catherine and I on Nicholas Road, and it was a petition for something. I don't remember what it was. And they said, we want you to sign your name. And I said, well, if I sign my name and I disagree with some part of it, oh, they said, no, you can't do that. I said, well, can you change it? No. This is basically when you sign your name, that's the way it's going to be. Well, guess what they didn't get? They didn't get Catherine and Don McKinnon's name. And so we went to the town meeting, but we were not part of the Pleasantfield unit, if you will. And there was nothing extraordinary, nothing revolutionary. But one of the officials, and I'll always blame it on Walter O'Brien, because I've already told you Walter O'Brien is Mr. Raynham, and so he's the number one guy in the 50-year history from 50 up to the year 2000 in my eyes. And so I'll blame it on Walter saying it. And he didn't mean it in any big thing. It became what the town people called, and other, which would be us, we's and the they's. Now, you may find that. The reason I bring these up is that when I tell you this is small town talk, you can move this on up to the state, the federal government. It's we's and they's. If you study it, it's we's and they's. So that's a strategic part of government. There are those who belong and those who don't belong. Now, you're all voting. You all have the power to do certain things. And as a matter of fact, down the road, God willing, if I'm still here, we will talk about the mobile home park. That's a neighborhood. Mobile home park's a neighborhood, and we'll discuss that. So as this occurs, you see, Pleasant Field was there. And what one of the selectmen, and I'll blame it on Walter, but maybe it sounded more like something Al would say, Al Porter. They must have liked this town, otherwise they wouldn't have moved here. We have created a town for them that they should be pleased that we welcome them into this town. They should know, however, their place. This is small town talk in a small town, but what you find out is I look on towns as it would be a puzzle, and there are different pieces that fit into the puzzle to create the town. Years ago when I was a boy, and please, if you're from this city, don't take offense. I mean no offense, you know. We used to say, Lynn, Lynn, what did we say? City of sin. Lynn, Lynn, city of sin. So back in those days, there might be some industry in that community where people would say something. Now, today, Lynn is one of the top cities in the Commonwealth of Mass, and it's forward-thinking, and I apologize for having said that. But I just want you to know that's the way different communities sound to you. And when you move into a neighborhood in certain cities or towns, you really should know the reputation of that, because it could have a bearing on your quality of life. That's a word for cities and towns, quality of life. And so as we discuss these different sections as time goes by, we will explore them, and I will talk to you about different events that occurred in the town of Raynham. To me, these are all pieces of the puzzle. And this is the question, no disrespect to either side, the we's or the they's. Some of the things that we judge should take place in the town of Raynham might take offense of the people who want to do something in the town of Raynham. And as a result of that, that's what many of the issues that occurred in the town of Raynham had originated from. The fact that you would come in, I'll give you the quickest one and probably the most controversial one of all, and I will stay somewhat away from it because it got controversial beyond all words normal. What the selectmen did was, not only are the executive branch, but they also, in small towns, become the Board of Health. I found I was litigated against more as a Board of Health member than as a selectman. And also then they are also the licensing authority, which then that can become very controversial. So you've got other boards that they therefore take place if nobody else does that. And what I'm saying is probably the most controversial and dangerous is the hours of operation of certain businesses. Now, we as officials would want to restrict the hours of operations because we want the tone of the business to be such that it is okay within those hours. And if you go beyond certain hours, you might cater to a crowd of people that are a little bit more active in their world than we want them to be. So what you find is that taking this puzzle that I'm talking about, and I'll talk about it in future shows, when you look at the puzzle, you'll find out that those pieces are what the town might decide they want to, the word is restrict or control, and the person who wants to do it, and you can't blame them. Do not blame them. They don't want to be controlled. They want to do what they want to do. So I will talk some of these. Now the first thing I'm going to talk about, though, I'm going to talk about the town cane. I'm going to give you a list of the issues that I put down many years ago. I don't know why I did, and here they are. One of them is gravel removal. The next is licensing of a establishment as to the hours they can serve. The next is a restaurant, and the name of the restaurant is Sambo's, or was Sambo's. Townies will not remember that, maybe because it was a very short time. The next, of course, is mobile homes, and that is what I've just told you is a neighborhood. Back again is another license. It was called the squeeze play. Now, you baseball fans know what the squeeze play is. There's a guy on third, you're going to bunt, you're going to try to bring the guy in what's called a squeeze play. Well, that was a restaurant that had rather provocative sort of ideas on what they were going to do in the town of Raynham, and Raynham decided that wasn't too good an idea for the town of Raynham. Hazardous waste site. Whoa. Borden Colony. Oh my goodness, we know that. You have to say, I know the Borden Colony. North Center Water Districts. Sewer Department. Yeah, I'm going to tell you something about the town of Raynham. Keep a secret, because you got more people should want to move to the town of Raynham. Town of Raynham taxes is probably pretty much competitive to the surrounding communities in Mass. House prices, competitive. Obviously, we know Boston is out of Cambridge, out of step, and those prices are absolutely ridiculous. But most of the towns out around and surround Raynham falls within it. And Raynham is one of probably, and I don't know of another one. If you know of another one, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But I don't know of another one that has 100%, basically I say that, but say it's 80 to 90, water and sewer. You look around at your surrounding towns and which have water sewer, and I say, I don't care whether I have it or not. Oh. Next, I'm going to talk on the police, the fire, and the highway. Those are the dedicated employees in the town of Raynham, second to none. And it's one of the reasons people move to Raynham. I believe they should be comfortable right off the bat, because you've got, as far as I'm concerned, no better police, no better fire, and no better highway in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The next I've got listed is an organization called RAVE. That originally was founded by Shoshana Garshek, which we'll talk about, and taken over by Pat Riley in later years, and both of them managed to keep that going in such a way that's second to none, no doubt about it. We'll talk about RAVE. Young parents, you all know about RAVE. Small schools. Margot and I, as we do this broadcast, are in the South School. There were 3 small schools that students went to. My kids went to one of the 3 small schools. As a matter of fact, they went to the South. They went to this school right here. And then there is, of course, the center, and then there is the north. So we will go into that in more detail of the small schools, which the small schools still exist. The school system, which is, again, one of the tops in the Commonwealth of Mass. I do get off a little bit more on education, maybe than I should, because my roots are from education. My family are teachers and have been teachers and administrators over the period of years, including myself. And so, therefore, I'm a little more interested in education maybe than I should be. But in a way, though, it is very important to know that when someone says, who's knowledgeable in the southern part of the state, when someone says, what does Raynham offer? The first word comes out is education. So this is an education community. Once you get that in the service, our classification used to be MOs, we used to call. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know what that means. But MO means your classification. And I will say that the MO of Raynham is education. Small school concept. The school bus law. Now what is, I'll give you a right capsule what the school bus law is. You know there's a blinking light. There's been your grandparents, your great-grandparents when they used to have 2 candles, you know. The school bus has a blinking light, and that means stop. By the way, A lot of people aren't doing that now, and that's something that has to be worked on. But you also notice, wait a minute, where did that come from? Boop. I do sound effects. There's no extra charge for that. That's all included in my contract with Comcast. Boop. And the little boop and the stop sign comes out. And it's illuminated. And it says stop. Well, wait a minute now. The blinking light said stop. What is that? What is that little stop sign coming out? That's a petition passed in the town of Raynham, placed by Peter Y. Flynn, who was second to none as a representative in the town I've been, in the time I've been in the town. And that had become law back in the 70s, the school bus law. And here it was. Only Don McKinnon would do this, because I passed the petition around and petitioned the general court to do this. And as a result of that, Raynham has a law that was passed in the Commonwealth of Mass, but now you can hardly go to another community in the country that I see. I'm sure not checking it out because I got better things to do with my time. I think it's in most other states, though. A little boop, that little sign, that little sound, it's all included in the charge. And it points out and it says stop. By the way, this is something you don't know. Does that mean that you have to stop? Oh, yes, definitely. But you already got a stop sign, don't you? So is that designed for you? No, it's not designed for you. You adhere to it. You don't drive by when the stop sign that says stop and you just got to stop. It's for the municipal governmental agencies. It's for this is the trickiest thing that could happen in your lifetime. It's for the emergency vehicle. It's for the ambulance. It's for the cruiser that's going to, maybe there's a robbery or a murder going on. That's for them. And I'll get into the restrictions that they may have on it, and they may live on it, they may not. Just remember that the employee is the one who always seems to take the hit when things don't work out. And so it shouldn't be their fault, but it's kind of designed so that it is their fault. There is a cane which is given to the eldest citizen in the town of Raynham. Now, when I first came on the Board of Selectmen used to do it. I loved to do that. To go to that elderly citizen, usually they were about 101, 103. And they were citizens in the town of Raynham who would receive the eldest cane. So let me give you the background of the cane. You got a minute? Let me give you the background of the cane. 1909, the papers were the Boston Post and the Boston Herald. Maybe there was the Globe at that time. I'm not even sure. That was about it. But people in those days, remember now, no television, they read that from page 1 right through. They read everything in it. And that was the Boston Post, which later went out of business. But at that time, editors of the Boston Post, decided, 1909 now, decided to have a cane made up for every city and town in the Commonwealth of Mass, and in their little section of the cane, the town Boston Post cane, and it was given to the eldest citizen. Now, wouldn't you know, see, for every good deed, there's something that happens, isn't it? The good deed was to give it to the person who was the eldest, they're 102 years old. Now, no disrespect, but chances of them seeing too many more, it's not too good. And so then the cane is to be returned to the city or town. Now, what happened with the canes, though, many of the people decided to keep the cane. And it became a little bit of a dispute as to whether they could keep the cane or not. I don't have a count. Someone could do it. You got some time, you got nothing to do with, and you want to do something productive, call cities and towns and find out if they still got the cane. I'm going to bet that probably 10% of the canes may be still left because they were buried in the casket. They were kept by the family and put up in the family room as a collector's item, and they wouldn't return. You want the cane? No, you can't have the cane back. So that was the end of the cane. So as a result of that, when the selectmen used to do it, I'm going to say typical of the selectmen, we weren't that astute at getting the cane back. But we did get the cane back because there is still the Boston Post cane in the town of Raynham. But now it is given out by the Council on Aging and in the Council for the Seniors. If you go into the council, you're more than welcome. We thank you very much for coming by. Old or young, you go into the Council on the Aging just to tour the building. Very nice, well-kept building, very professionally run. And as you go into that building now, and it's in the Borden Colony, and it's opposite the Lions Club, and you go down King Philip, and you look on your left, there's a tennis court and all that. And is it bocce? Is that a name of it? Yeah, that's there were different activities there and all. They have the horse show once in a while. Raynham Pride Day is there on the left. And there is a building on the left, which is the Council on the Aging. And if you go into that building in normal business hours, you can, and you look on the left, just as you go in now, you'll see encased, very professionally done by a volunteer in the town of Raynham. And you look in that case, and you will see a cane. It is not just a cane. It is the cane. It is the 1909 Boston Post cane for the eldest citizen of the town of Raynham. Now, what the seniors do, they have either a plaque or something of that nature, which they will give to the eldest. The most recent I knew, of course, was Kathleen Roberts, who is legendary in the town of Raynham. And Kathleen passed in about the year one of her age, around 102 or something, and around there, 103. And so the various people who have received the cane over the years no longer receive the cane, so the Council on Aging is very cautious. They want to make sure that I do something in what I call I'm still in the legislature, and I do something in the town of Raynham is called lobbying, and I lobby for different things. For example, I want a picture of Joe Betancourt in the auditorium in the middle school. I want that picture. Do I get that picture? No, I don't get that picture. Do I keep bothering people? I'm doing it right now, aren't I? I want a picture because the auditorium is named Joseph Betancourt. Why? Because Joe did all the work. And so the auditorium should be dedicated, and was and is dedicated to him. He's now chairman of the sewer commission. Joe always stays, and he's on the building committee and all this other stuff. He always does that. And so, but one of the other things I lobby for in the town of Raynham, I want the Council on Aging to get a bunch of canes made up. And when it comes time to give the oldest, just give them symbolically, I don't care whether it's a little cane or a full-size cane or what it is, for somebody to keep, for the family to keep. That's my latest lobby. Do they do that? No. Do people do what I ask them to do? No. But do I keep asking them? Yes. And sometimes, every once in a while, something I lobby for happens to be. So on the cane, I am 110% in favor of it being locked up because I don't want it to be in somebody, all due respect now, casket. But I would like them to have a cane. And if you say to McKinnon, how are you doing? I'm working on it. I'm still bothering people about it. I'm lobbying for the cane. And that is the Boston Post cane. And I thank you for your kind attention. Luckily I didn't get to the gravel pit. Isn't that exciting? We will the next broadcast, though. Thank you very much for watching. I remain yours. What's his name?